Hello and welcome to Atomic Facepalm. I am Chris.
And I'm Bre.
And this week on Played in Full, we review What Remains of Edith Finch. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, we do reviews like this and we talk about games a lot. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you are so inclined. We'd love you. You can always leave a comment below as well. So, right up front, spoilers, because this is going to be a game where it's 2.5 hours long. The whole thing is basically spoilers. So, you have been warned.
Yeah, if you haven't played it, we recommend it, obviously. It's
Yes.
like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Learn as little about it as you can. Just go play it, come back, and spoiler discussion.
Precisely. Go play the game. If you haven't already, come back, listen to us talk about it, and leave any thoughts you have below, because this is definitely a game where I think people are going to have a lot of different opinions.
Yep, so comments below or find us on Twitter and comment there. We'd love to hear what you have
Absolutely.
to say.
So, again, you have been warned. Spoilers from here on out. Here we go, right into it. And just a quick mention, since this game has a lot of story, etc., we're going to do a lot of video overlay here. Also, we did a whole entire recording a few days ago, and we lost it. So, but we still have the audio, and we thought it was a pretty good discussion, honestly. So we're going to go ahead and salvage the audio and show you a bunch of gameplay, which I think works out pretty well.
Yep.
So here we go, right into it. This is a game that came out on the PS4, and it came out on the PC. It's $20 on Steam. Indie game, but quite a few people on this project for an indie game, as we found out.
Pretty big.
Yeah. So, it's roughly 2.5 hours long. There's really not much you can do to extend that, I don't feel like. I guess if you wanted to kind of poke around and explore the environment, but really, this is a game on rails.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
There's not a whole lot you can really do besides go along with the story. This game took some Paramount sort of attention due to something we covered in our weekly show, which was a fellow did a very incendiary article about how games shouldn't have story, when clearly this is a game entirely based off story. Okay, so we're going to go off and start with things that we liked. Me personally,
until I found out about you.
I liked the overall story. Now that's a very generic statement, I get it.
still not
What I
sure
liked
what to tell you
was
about
I
all
didn't
this.
really see where the game was going. When you start off, obviously, you have a very limited
Maybe
sort
we
of
have time to understand
what's going on here.
as
But I
it is,
enjoyed
I
that,
think the
for
best
me,
we
the
can do
twist
is
at the
to open
end
our eyes.
was the main character dies. I actually did not see that coming. I
Appreciate
thought,
how
and it's spoiled in the damn
strange
title,
and
really, if
Yeah.
you think about it, but I really thought that she was going to have some sort of huge catharsis and she would figure out what was going on. I actually thought it would take a supernatural
This journal
twist.
was supposed
which
I did
it-
too, because it kind of dipped that way right at the end, where it was going to seeming a little
Yeah.
supernatural. And the curse always is that underlying
Mhm.
supernatural thing, but...
But I really thought it was going to
tell you all
be...
these stories myself.
I don't want to slam Firewatch. I liked Firewatch, which is a game a lot of people compare to this just because, again, it's similar, right?
Okay.
I thought the ending of Firewatch was not great, and I was a little afraid that the end of this game would get very, like, cliched, and, oh, you're going to fight a demon or something, or I don't know. It wasn't that at
Fight
all,
the
right?
family curse.
Yeah, you're going to literally
This is where your
manifest the
story
curse and
begins.
kill it. No,
I'm
it's really
sorry I
just
won't be able to
a
see it.
very tragic
lot to
tale of a
ask.
family that's really unlucky,
don't
and she
want you to be
dies,
sad
and she
for
has a baby before
want
she
you to be
dies.
amazed
And will the
that
kid
any of us
survive?
ever
Probably
had a
not.
chance to be
It's a
together.
very dire and sort of depressing and sad ending, and I celebrate that.
No, well, I like that right at the end, she's kind of like, don't be sad about it because I died, be happy that I got to live it all kind of thing. And that was
Right.
just enough at the very end that it felt not so sad, like in a nice way. Sad in a nice way.
Yeah. Another thing I would say I liked about this game, building off that, is this game sticks with you. At least it did with me. We both talked about how when the game was over, we both just kind of sat in front of the screen and watched the credits roll. Not so much to enjoy the people who made the game, although they're all fine people. It was more just you want to sit there and you think about it and you're just kind of sad, sort of happy, and
Yeah. To
It
me,
just-
it was just like you have a really deep dream and you wake up the next day and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of this thing that's like with you for like the next 24 hours. You can't shake it. It felt like that. Like you're so kind of immersed in this narrative space that you're kind of stuck with you in a weird way.
Yeah, it's a good analogy because it does kind of fade. I mean, it was with me for a few days, but after a while, you move on.
Yeah.
Which is another part of this game that I enjoyed is moving on and sort of taking what was great about someone's life and celebrating that, even if it was very short. In this game, it's strange, right? Because the old lady lives presumably a very long time and even kind of escapes, I think it's hinted at. She was like the 90-year-old, I don't remember her name. She was like 90 years old, and she was the only one who lived that long. Everyone else died tragically.
Edie or something?
Yeah.
She had the same name as her grandmother.
I think that's right. I also actually liked, some people didn't, I liked how there was kind of an underlying question of, is there really a curse? That's never answered. Is there really, did some dark demon curse them? Did they dig into some Stygian depths, like the darkest dungeon? And is it like that? Maybe. There's a part where you're in the underground cellar, right? And you're in like that fallout shelter, which is really cool, by the way, when you discover that. I like that part a lot. And the guy is hearing something like smashing. It's like an earthquake.
I thought that was a train.
Even a
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so every day, he keeps track of it every day at
okay.
a certain time. I thought it was a train, and then it's kind of funny it's because the train kills him.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why the train would have... I know eventually the train goes away. Why is there a train on an island?
Well, that's a big question too.
Okay, and well, now I'm getting too deep into it, but why did the train stop for a week, thus making him feel safe to go outside to then get hit by the train?
Okay, so here is one of my big questions. I don't know if I did like this part. I have a feeling that maybe this was all a big metaphor. Like maybe you're not supposed to take everything literally that you're seeing.
Oh no, not for sure, because obviously the first story with Molly is very like what the hell happened to her? Did she get poisoned and get high and was a dragon and stuff?
And then a dolphin. No, she was a shark. She was an owl. A cat.
A cat, and then finally a snake monster, sea monster.
Yeah,
thing.
and you actually kill people.
Yeah.
Like in that.
You kill yourself, kind of. Like
Yeah.
the snake goes into your own
You
room
become yourself and kill yourself.
and eat yourself, and I don't know. So obviously it's not all real, and I did one of the things I'd say more than anything is I like how it kind of merged what you think of memories and then what the person's perspective on that event was, and then the real stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of this blend of what really happened and the things that they left, because sometimes you were getting the story from divorce papers or the very different ways in which you got the stories was interesting.
And that's kind of cool. You could look at it this way of like a detective sort of story, because like how forensics work is this is what detectives have to go through. They have to go off memory, which is fallible. They have to go off of different opinions. You could get 12 different visions on the same thing that happened. This is kind of what this game is. You don't really know what's real and what isn't. You're not even sure if what you're seeing through the main character's eyes are real or not.
Sure
because it starts off, right, you're at the bottom of the house, but then you get to the top and it's really strange and bizarre in ways that are not architecturally possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a way to kind of do an anthology of different people.
Sure.
But
The beginning of the end.
I give them a little bit of slack just for on each story making that much sense, or the house making sense. Or you think that the house wasn't really built like that?
I think it was I think the house represented, like, so remember in the bottom it's like a normal house.
Yeah, and then they
And
keep
the farther you get up, the more twisted and treacherous
Dr.
it becomes.
Susie it gets.
Right, until you have like one little spire with one room.
Yeah.
I think it's a metaphor of the family's ascent into death.
Until the final, killed off. None of them left.
Yeah, because you can only
To
build
heaven.
so much on top of that. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's what they were doing. There's not a whole lot of religious undertones, I felt like. If anything, it was the opposite. But, again, I think that imagery is very powerful, and it is kind of reaching up into the skies, and you can't build anything more at one point because the house is done. And you can't keep putting stuff on top of the steeple. So...
I also thought it was just a nice way to do that on rails map making. Like, I wandered through that house without ever going off track and not really feeling like I was constrained by rails either. Like, it was just like you'd go out through a porch door and then you'd do some stuff out there, and when you came back through, there was obviously another way to go, and that was where you go. So I never felt like I was on rails, but you were, and the house was very laid out. And
Sure. It felt like a fun house to a certain degree. Like, if you were to go to a haunted house or something and you didn't have a single corridor, you could explore, but there are limitations.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I liked.
I like that too. I really liked how, and we kind of touched on this a little bit last week, I liked how the interactions drew you into whatever was happening with the story. So the graphic novel. Like, it's literally, right, the graphic novel section. It's really cool how it shifts from panel to panel, and you kind of get that sense of surreal and how she wanted to be this big star, etc. I like that part we talked about with the fish, where you're kind of that was probably the best part of the game for me.
I think I hear that echoed in many of the reviews that I've read, is that part really stands out as like, oh, I understand. This entire game was for kind of this moment of this kind of storytelling.
Yeah. I also enjoyed how the way you explored the house. So it wasn't all unlocked to begin with, like you were saying, the on-rails part. They hit it very well by kind of making it so you had to sort of go around and explore and get under these little secret passageways and get into the rooms. And you got to look into the rooms to begin with, and I was like, I really want to know what's behind there, even though fisheye view, it's hard to see. So I like that sort of anticipation. One thing I will say real quick before I forget that I did not like is, okay, there's very little controls. You can't rebind your keys at all. You used a controller. I had to use a controller. I had no choice. And that actually took a little bit away from me.
That you had to use a controller?
Yeah, gamepads of first-person shooters for me do not work. It's not a shooter. There's like 2 buttons, but it just really threw me off. I don't like using gamepads for first-person perspectives. That's a personal thing. If I could have rebound my keys in my wacky, insane control scheme, fine, but I couldn't. And I know it's a 2.5-hour game, but seriously, like, putting key bindings.
I mean, we just talked about it with Warhammer, so I definitely agree with you. I didn't even consider rebindings. I didn't know they weren't in there. Because
you're a normal person. If you're using Losty, you can invert the mouse. That's it.
Well, I did invert the mouse, yeah.
But some people use ASDF, right? Like, not everyone uses... Like, there's different... So I just feel like...
It just didn't feel like a mouse and keyboard game to me. It felt like a sit back and... You know what I mean?
See, I felt like it did. I felt like I wanted to look around the environment a lot. And very quickly.
I did, but... I don't, because I don't need pinpoint accuracy to look at a bookshelf. I didn't feel like I was hindered, you know, if I was a little janky, which you're probably seeing my gameplay and I'm probably looking really janky.
Oh, mine's probably way worse.
I don't know. So I don't know. I'm not good at that. I struggle. But
I'll say, to the credit of the game, it was a very minor thing. I got over it in 20 minutes.
The only time I had the controls really hang me up was when you become a cat and you've got to jump with that one button that you've got. It didn't feel natural to use that for jump. And so I was out there on the branches, like, what do I do here?
I did the same thing.
For a little bit longer than I probably should have.
Yep. Same thing with the owl portion. I wasn't really sure you were, I flew around in circles for 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Not realizing.
Once I get the cat, I was like, okay, they really mean for me to use this one button to do everything in this game.
Yeah.
So if I'm confused, I push this button.
Yeah. And again, calling it a game, this is one of those games that I don't know how to classify. That's a bad thing. You can't die. There's no fail states that I know of, unless someone else out there says otherwise. I didn't see any way to really stop the game from going forward. I'm trying to think. Maybe did I die once?
They talk about walking simulators, but I feel like that doesn't encompass what this felt like to me either. I felt like interactive story works better, but then it's not interactive because you don't change anything.
No, but again, I think just that they were smart enough to do things like we talked about, the fish moving, those from side to side. And I actually enjoyed the photo section too, even though that was very much just point and click. It was just kind of a cool, different way to tell a story, which was, real motion pictures, at least when they used to be on film stock, was just one image, transferred really fast. And so it was almost like a throwback to that time. So I enjoyed that sort of complexity. There wasn't a lot about this game I didn't like, honestly.
No, I actually really enjoy short games like this. Because you kind of can just... some games, they feel like too much, and this was a nice little bite-sized bit of goodness, and it felt like they didn't draw anything out. They used things, they tried different things. I'm trying to think about what I didn't like. A couple times with the controls feeling a little whatever. It is pretty on rails. I mean, I guess that's not the best thing, but I didn't... Because I'm with it for such a short time, I didn't mind that. If it was a 10-hour game, I would have minded being on rails that entire time. But since they kind of just felt like they were holding my hand through the story, it wasn't a negative.
What do you think about the baby scene?
I liked it.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, it's super sad.
Oh my God, it was so
sad.
That tore me up, man, mentally.
With that and the swing, you know what's coming so much, but you still have to do it.
Which is what made it all the more painful for me. It's like, I don't know what it'd be like being like some weird deity or something, but like if you just knew that this person had to die, it's like that would just be so destructive mentally. Because like the baby scene especially, I thought that was right up there with moving the fish, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And I loved how they tried to capture that innocence and imagination of a young child, and how, you know, in real life he was probably moving all this stuff around, but in his vision they were just floating around and dancing.
And they were much more entertaining than I think an adult. Like, you know what I mean? Adult looks at blocks, you see blocks, but a child looks at it, it's that entertaining. Even though, they're not probably seeing that exact thing, it's like that much.
It's just so magical, right?
Yeah.
It's just such a young child, life is so new. And no one that we know of can remember what it's like being a baby, you know? So this was a very artistic and inventive approach to that. And even when the baby starts dying, which is horrible and tragic, like holy shit. But it's like this, it's like a dream where the baby is drowning, but it's like this magical thing that's happening.
I say a lot of this stuff in the game reminded me of a dream. Just the house itself, as you go through room to room. Like I've had that exact dream where I'm in a house and I keep going and I'm like, what the hell? This room is like crazy in here. It's like spaceships and the next room and then there's something else.
Yeah, intentional, I think.
Yeah.
Again, I guess, I don't know if this is a complaint, maybe just a comment. Again, it's a delicate balance of, is this family really cursed, or is this just a string of bad luck? There's a lot of really outlandish stuff. Like a guy fucking moving a mansion on the back of a barge. Like,
I guess I never took this story literal, and I think that maybe is a negative, is that it presents itself in a, like, the style of it is very realistic, cartoony realistic, but the entire environment's really realistic, and it never feels like a real story. Like I never tried to fit those two pieces together in my head and came up with that kind of resistance.
Yeah, and that maybe could be a slight problem, because you do want to ground your audience, whether it's a movie, a book, or a game. You want to ground them in whatever they're getting into. So I wasn't sure, where is this reality? Is this in reality? Is this just some sort of metaphysical context? They're just trying to tell a story, and the game happened to be the best way to do it. Great. But one question I had was, the old lady, the older one who somehow managed to stay alive, she mentions quickly, and you play as her for a second, right? You go through the mist. And she mentions kind of offhandedly that something in there changed her. And then she was different after that. Well, that's the only information you get. So what? Did she really go out? Because the tide goes back like 200 feet or something, which in of itself is like, and then you get out there, and it's implied
that
she
happens. It's a tsunami.
Was it?
Yeah, so there's an earthquake out in the ocean, and then all the water goes there to the tsunami, which means that that stuff drains out of the water. That's a real thing.
No, I know, I get that,
It
but then the water comes back and destroys everything.
Oh yeah,
So-
and she's got a certain amount. I don't know how much time, like an hour or something.
Yeah.
Before it will.
But what was just more confusing to me was there was this, right, you've got giant sunken house out there, and also I didn't realize that it sank like 100 feet offshore. I thought the house sank in the middle of the ocean, right? And
no,
it's
they
like,
were so close, and then that's why it was always like haunting them out there in the bay,
it's like right there.
under, kind of that.
What's under the surface?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But she was the only one who ever knew. And then something happened, and she managed to dodge the curse.
So I wondered if I had, once you learn that thing, you keep going all the way up, and then she lays down and writes in her book, right?
Yeah.
Or no, she's already writing in her book. So I wanted to know if I could go back down to the library and find that book on the ground.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because she tries to tell her whatever the crap happened through that book, but then your mother interrupts you.
I never
Now, the cynical part of me says, are they playing like DLC? That would be, in my opinion, a terrible idea. Please don't do that.
I don't think so.
Please don't do that.
I feel like they handled so many things very delicately and with care in this, that to just ram some DLC on this game would be like...
Yeah, it would be such a bad idea.
It'd be like, I don't know, finishing a race and like just crashing on your face, breaking your face afterward.
I hope that's not the case. I guess I've become a little jaded. But this seems like a very competent, and it seems like they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they did it. again, there could have been many opportunities to extend this game artificially to just put more hours into it.
I think that would have been a huge mistake.
And they did.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, there's a lot of people on this game. The end credits, you've got 30 different portraits you go through.
Yeah, those are some great credits too.
They really are. Probably the best game of the year. We'll do Game of the Year awards, and best credits goes to
Edith Finch. Yeah. I could call that right now. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was it was very calm and emotional, and it was one of the very few credit sequences I've sat through, aside from Resident Evil, that also had. Oof, you know what?
Yeah, so there's a whole. So Nier Automata, that last. Well, there's stuff that happens in credits that's super important.
Oh man, we might have a whole different video
discussion
here. But no, they did it well, and yeah, I really don't have much negative to say about this game. One, it's very short, so. But you know what? Movies are short, and we can trash movies. So
I guess if you really are taking that per hour cost in gaming wise, I know that in movies and other things get a.
Well, shit, movies. Some movies cost $20 these days, depending on what theater you go to.
Yeah, for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, and this is not something you just kick back and eat some popcorn like you was your popcorn movie. This is not a popcorn game. This is something that's going to challenge you emotionally. I mean, it's just not like
I didn't cry,
sit back and have some fun. Firewatch was kind of that to a certain degree. I mean, there were some parts, but for it was just kind of it's fun. It's a game. This was more just holy shit, what just happened? I don't know if it's for everybody. As much as I'm layering praise on this game, if you're someone who just wants to play action games or first-person shooters, this game is probably going to drive you insane because it's it's the opposite of action to a certain degree, even though there's small sections where that's available.
I'd argue that this is almost for everybody.
Really?
90%, 94% of people. I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
Because it's so short. 94.3% of people should play this game because it's so short. You know what I mean? If it was more what was in Firewatch, 8 hours? 5?
So Firewatch for me was 6 or 7, but I really stretched that out, and it can be a lot longer. Firewatch was not a game on rails.
Okay, so I'd say more if it was that kind of length,
Yeah.
6 or 8 hours, then maybe not for everybody, but it's so short. I feel like there's something. If you like games, I think this is.
I think this is an argument that's been going on forever, and thankfully it hasn't been as focused on. But are games a serious medium? You always hear that oh, you play video games, huh? Are you childish? Seriously, and I want to fucking kill people in it. It drives me crazy. This is one of those games I would throw in people's faces. You know what I mean? Oh, our game's serious? Here, play through this. It doesn't take you. Here's a gamepad. This little thing goes here. Anyone could basically learn.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's.
Yeah.
But then you also edge into that. Is it a game or is it whatever? Not interactive story. There's not going to be another word besides interactive and story. It's something.
Again, we talked about this to a certain degree too. I don't mean to retread, but not everyone's going to watch other videos, so that's fine. A lot of people say, "Are these really literature?" They got pictures. They're violent and they're not really serious. You know what? Some graphic novels are better than a lot of fucking books I read. And I feel like some of the games that we review and talk about this one are better than a lot of other stuff out there. So, yeah, I'm with you. So, hope you enjoyed that discussion of What Remains of Edith Finch. Maybe you know what remains of Edith Finch now, or have a vague understanding.
Of what we think remains of Edith Finch. Whatever.
Okay.
Savannah, oh my fuck.
Oh my God.
Right on cue.
Dude, I'm a stupid retard, dog.
Look at that. You got
Go lay down. Go.
Out.
Go. We're
Out.
fine. We're okay. It's okay.
Out. Mm-hmm. Lay down.
I she's going, oh, I'm so heartbroken.
I don't know where my bed is.
I'm going to order another bed. Here we go. Okay, outro.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you can always subscribe below to get more of these videos if you like them. You can leave us comments. And again, we'd love to hear your thoughts because this is a game that... I'll do it one more time. I'm sorry. If I was a professional, I would not have been distracted.
Hog dog.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Hopefully you have some thoughts on this, and maybe now you know what remains of the legendary Edith Finch. So you can always hit subscribe and get more of these videos if you like them. And again, leave us your thoughts. So until next time, from Chris, from Bre, good luck.
Have fun.
Bam!